Should be with you now. We are about midway through, Natalie. We've reflected on the alternatives to calling people resources, how human resources is a bit of an oxymoron in itself, and some of the traits of between people and resources, the self-fulfilling prophecy elements where people being treated as resources will become to behave as such. And we've done a bit of the history. But what does the industry say? So a few examples from some notable people out in the agile industry in particular. So people become more valuable over time. Show me a desk that does that. Joanna Rothman. I was speaking with Tobias Mayer not too long ago on my podcast, and he said, if you flip the language ever so slightly and don't call someone a human resource, but call them a resourceful human, it's exactly the same words, but with a slightly different emphasis. You're referring to someone who is resourceful, who is valuable, a human that likes to be resourceful, and that you can be a resource to someone. But it's not the words themselves that matter. Again, it's the context and the language that you use and the behavior that follows. There are some companies out there such as Monzo. Monzo doesn't use the word resources to refer to people because they believe that this business speak is some catch-all term, and it could usually be referring to budget and tools and things like that. But people are people. They're not resources. Nobody likes to be thought of as just a resource. So they don't encourage that. And from day one, they have their own language. They use Monzonauts, but they encourage everyone to correct each other if they hear that language creeping in. And I think that's just wonderful. And that was a post on LinkedIn that was written by a person, not a resource. You've got a company called The Ralph. They don't have a traditional HR department because, again, people are humans and not resources. So they got rid of that and they had a humans, not resources department, H&R. And they championed that shift of focus towards humanizing their processes to think of people as people. I think there's a great one here from one of the Forbes Council members. He said that to be successful in our modern society, we must see as being people as in control of the toolbox rather than being the toolbox. And that being the foundation of the people first approach. They are in control of their situation, their environment. They're not the toolbox. They're not a means to an end. They are people. And then the last thing, Ben Linders, he says, plans are nothing. People are everything. Yeah, a plan is nothing without people. So again, I'd love to hear from you folks. What have you heard out in the working world? Do you have any stories to tell about people being referred to as resources or anything else? You don't need to share the client, the company, if you should wish. Just wondering if you have anything anecdotally to share. You can do so again via the chats, via the Miro boards, however you should so wish. Yes, there's an example here, someone's writing that their manager calls people resources. And the question I have to that person is, how does it make you feel when you're referred to as a resource? If you don't mind sharing, of course, it's up to you.
For me, it rolls off my back, but hearing other people, especially my team, being called resources, because I know there's so much more than that, it just hurts. So I haven't corrected that person, but I do make a point to say people while that person says resources.
And I do the same. I hear it day in, day out. It comes from planning projects. It comes from people talking about, the next opportunity in the pipeline and what resources we need for it. And I'm always thinking, oh no, why are they doing that? And again, I don't believe there is malice behind it. Don't attribute to malice what could be considered incompetence or otherwise. Again, I don't think it's necessarily incompetence. It's just so ingrained. It's so normal. It's so entrenched in the way business happens. It's so part and parcel of the traditional waterfall project management Gantt chart style world that people do it without realizing. And I think that we're starting to see a bit of a shift where people no longer resonate with that language, or at least I'm starting to see that. The way a so-called leader treats their collaborators makes a huge difference. It's treatment that matters completely. So what could we do differently? Now, I'm a firm believer, and I use this when I'm talking about my retrospectives as well, that we should have a little less conversation, a little more action. We can talk and talk and talk about how we don't like the language resources. We can talk about how it makes people feel. We can ask people how it makes them feel. But unless we do something differently, that situation won't change. And it's the same when I'm coaching teams to try new things. If they're unhappy with the state of play right now, if they're unhappy with their current environment, they have to do something differently. Otherwise, they'll probably be complaining about the same frustrations in a few weeks' time anyway. So there's a lovely little flowchart visual here, and it just says, should I say resources? Do you mean people? Yes, then say people. No. Do you mean people and things? Then say people and things. No. Do you mean things? Then say things. So yes, say things. I think it's very, very simple. Quite simply, if you mean people, say people. My encouragement to you, just as I was describing, if you hear someone refer to someone as a resource, approach it with empathy, unconditional positive regard. They are probably, that person who's doing it, they're doing so with, to the best of their ability, with the skills and knowledge they have at hand, their own experiences. You don't need to approach them with any sort of attack or anything, but just approach them with empathy and see if you can encourage them to consider using other language. And you have to start using that language yourself as well. If you are involved in a project and you're in need of a capability or a skill set, ask for it rather than saying resources. So we need a Java developer, for example, rather than saying we need a resource. If you are in a position to be able to influence it with onboarding new people, with speaking with HR and trying to make it more people focused, then I encourage you to do so. Absolutely make time for personal interaction. I think it was mentioned in the introduction to this session. We are in a very virtual world right now. We're very, very disparate. We're geographically separated, many of us, some never to return to being face-to-face again, I would imagine. And the consequence of that, particularly where there are occasions when people aren't on camera, like right now, I'm just basically looking at myself talk and I can see lots of names and some photos and things like that. It can make it easier to think of someone as just a name on a screen, an avatar rather than a person. So in your meetings make time for that personal interaction. I encourage the first 5 minutes of any session that I'm involved with to be focused on personal things, not just business talk. And that can be icebreakers. And Francisco, if you're still here, you will remember that from some of the teams that I was helping with when we worked together, with the icebreakers at the start of every session. That's to build in the time for personal interaction. It's to help with thinking of people as people, not just avatars on a screen. They're beating hearts behind a laptop that have thoughts and feelings and desires and wants and things like that. If you feel the need to, I have a little totem. If anyone's seen the film Inception, he uses this little spinning top as a way to remind him that he's real. And I, on my desk, have a tiny Groot, and it links back to my sticker, which was around here somewhere, my Guardians of Agility sticker. It's for the same purpose. My little Groot reminds me to be people focused. You could try that. And then again, I would encourage you just to be part of the change, to challenge yourself to try and make tiny changes over time. And coming back to the bottom here, we don't need to let perfect be the enemy of good. The utopian world is a far, far away. But if we were to make 1% change every day over time, that grows and grows. So if we can encourage others to think of people as people, to behave in such ways, that will grow over time and create great things.